very bland. It was very generic crown, you know?
I mean, he's literally
Generic
a gray.
crown. What other kind of crown? I mean,
He's already literally a gray squirrel with a gold crown on.
What would you have your crown made out of?
vaginas.
That's very odd.
Wow.
I'm gonna wear you like the crown you want.
Are you going to like make them out of? Are you gonna like leather the vagina? Is it just?
No pictures of vaginas. You fucking sick bastard.
I was just imagining like you're just chopping up vagina, there's blood coming down your bed.
Jesus.
What the? That got dark.
What the fuck is?
Oh my God.
You can... Happy Halloween, motherfuckers! Bye, shipping.
One king.
Clink, clank, clunk, clunk, clunk,
Clink, clank, clink, clink, clank, clink, clank, clunk.
clang, cling, clang, as the Pokemon from the Sinnoh region go.
Clunk.
Hello, and welcome to Strange Happy Hour. I am one of your hosts, Brent The Jesterhead back. Brent The Jesterhead Metcalfe. He's back. Along to my left.
The dispatcher, Mark Plover.
And over to my right.
Handsome John Pettit.
We are here to bring you the weekly tech and video game news that you probably know about, but we're going to talk about more in depth. Of course, we are sitting here enjoying a wonderful beverage. You see all the ingredients before you. Bowl of limes, a nice dark rum, which we have the Sailor Jerry, and then, of course, a ginger ale or ginger beer. I'm using ginger ale because it's cheaper. But we're drinking Dark and Stormies. They're very delicious and very spooky because they're October.
Why are they spooky?
I don't know. They're dark and stormy.
Dark, stormy.
But of course, there's all kinds of things we can talk about aside from our dark and stormies we're sipping on. There is, of course, the fact that Ubisoft has released a free coding software. It's actually kind of a video game on PC.
That's neat.
We could also talk about Yoshinori Kitase, who is like the creator of modern Final Fantasy, wanting new people to develop a remake of Final Fantasy VIII.
I think there's somebody
We
here
could
specifically that's targeted
also
that
talk about Fortnite Chapter 2. However,
Boring.
we don't have time for all that. We only have time for
The important
shit. And we're going to kick it off first here with old Mark the Dispatcher Plover because he has a big news story talking to us about the Big G.
The big G.
Gonorrhea.
Yes,
Yep.
that is correct.
Google had their Made by Google event this morning, Tuesday. So Tuesday morning, they had their big Made by Google event where they announced a lot of wonderful things from Nest products that are no longer Google products.
Very confusing.
Pixel products that are no longer Chrome products. And the new Pixel, of course.
Of course.
The new Pixel. So
Literally just like the new type of pixel. So you have pixels in your monitors. I'm kidding. Please continue.
anywho, I'm just going to go down my list here. So easily, the biggest thing for me, and I don't know if either of you have pre-ordered or not, is Stadia has an official release date of November 19th. I'm super excited for this.
I'm very excited for you to try it.
I
I'm
can't
excited
wait.
to see how it turns out. That's for sure.
I'm going to have a 4K Chromecast and a controller on the way sometime here in the next month. And then everything will open up on the 19th for me to be able to use. I'm assuming actually the package will probably come in on the
Yeah.
19th.
We'll probably
But
end up doing a video on it, I'm sure.
I was going to say we probably should do a side video.
actually, well, we could make that a game night.
Yeah, very well so.
Anyway, next
well
up,
said. So sad.
Pixel Buds. This is Google's first entry into the true wireless earbud market.
I saw this.
I'm actually kind of intrigued by these because they're much smaller than everything else, and apparently they have machine learning chips in them.
Yeah.
So like you get
cool.
the same Google Assistant features and a few other things, I guess, that connect to your phone whenever you're connected, that kind of thing. But the Bluetooth connectivity is actually super, super long too, which is what I'm kind of surprised about. Like the headphones I've got now, the Sony WF 1000 XM3s are great for range, but they're not like super long, like
Yeah.
through other walls and that kind of thing. So I'm interested to see how this goes.
Well, I also like there's a couple features they pointed out of like the way it sits in your ear. It actually makes it super easy for people to hear you when you talk into it, which is weird because they don't even come out a little bit like the AirPods.
AirPods,
Like they're like a cylinder or like they look like a circle in your ear
Yep.
because they're flush almost with
Yeah,
your ear.
it's basically flush. Like if you went from your earlobe to the side of your face there,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be flush.
And then they also talked about how the way it's designed is that it actually allows more sound basically through so that you can actually hear people. But also as sound gets louder around you, it increases the volume. So it kind of
Yeah.
is an interesting.
It compensates
Well,
well.
so the microphone actually is an interesting piece there because it uses your jawbone.
Yeah.
to feel the resonance that comes from your voice and how you speak, that kind of thing, to use the microphone.
Sculptatory percussion.
There you go.
It's our word of the day. Shing.
Of all things. Anyway.
Hold on,
I'm
we're not
dumb.
done yet.
I don't know
I want to talk about this one more time because the
'Cause I
only
am.
complaint I have, and it's not exclusive to these Pixel Buds, it's exclusive to these fully wireless earbuds, is the battery life. Like 5 hours is just not enough for how I use headphones.
Yeah. I mean, because like
you use them intersparingly. So like you're going to use them for a few hours, and then you could put them in the charger when you're not using them, and you have a 24-hour charge pack with it.
So the problem is that if I'm at work and I am like listening to podcasts, I will sit there all day for my 9 hours in the office and listen to podcasts.
You
And
don't take a
see to
lunch
me.
or anything like that. You don't. You have meetings and
I might have a meeting or I might have to stop, but I mean, we're talking on a good day, 7.5 hours. So I mean, that's still a lot of time.
And I'm
That,
sure that 5 hours is based loosely as a minimum for, not maximum volume.
Not usually. Usually, whenever battery life is projected like that, Google is a little bit better about it than most companies are, but the advertised battery life is not necessarily what you get. Like it's not always done under like regular usage necessarily. Like it could be on but idle the entire time, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Now they're usually, like I said, they're usually better about it, but it's probably going to be lighter on the battery load of like you're not inputting things a whole lot or changing settings and moving them in and out and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
so for $180, it's hard for me to swallow because I can't use them the way I use my current earbuds.
Well, so the way that I've taken true wireless like that is in that scenario, if you're sitting and working all day, this is where my WH-1000XM2s, my over ears are actually better because one, for me, they're much more comfortable.
Yeah.
Like they breathe a lot better. I don't have to worry about something sticking in my ear constantly,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But if I'm going to go, like for you go on walks a lot.
I do.
So like having something like that would be super efficient. Now, granted, you've got something similar already with the neck piece, but the idea would be to have something truly wireless so you're not even carrying that on you.
Yeah. I feel like I'm definitely not the audience because this doesn't bother me.
No.
Yeah.
And 12-hour battery
I mean,
life.
if you didn't already
5
have,
hours.
if you didn't already have the around the neck piece,
would
that
be
would
an
be something
option.
to consider.
Yeah.
But I mean, for most of us anyway, like that may already have earbuds or are looking to buy new earbuds for that kind of purpose of being active or something like that, I think these will be an interesting option.
There are a
I
lot of
agree.
people who I've talked to. I'm like, I love these things. And they're like, I can't stand it touching my neck. I can't do it. I'm like,
See, I can't do that either. Like I have a thing about wearing tight shirts where I feel like I'm getting choked.
I thought you liked that kind of thing.
Nope.
All I'm saying is put a nuclear fission reactor in the earbud, make it last for 12 hours, I'm in.
I'll have to show you the video of like a legitimate hydrogen reactor that you're supposed to be able to put in your pocket as a battery pack.
you
It's
were
a
saying your
long
butt.
time ago. It's a Linus Tech Tips video. It's an interesting piece. I'll research it. Anyway, moving on from that, or actually, I guess last bit with that is you'd already mentioned it once. Anyways, the case has a 24-hour extension
Yeah.
time essentially to add to the Pixel Buds.
Doesn't AirPods have something similar?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, the AirPods literally were the first major
Yeah,
product
I'm
out
just
of the
trying
market
to
like that.
bring
So-
the comparison factor because other people will.
Yeah, I was about to say, in the end, comparison factor to the AirPods. I mean, what do you feel about them?
I mean, so a lot of other people had pointed them out as the Pixel, or I'm sorry, the AirPods were not very well received. However, they are literally the highest grossing accessory for iPhones and Macs and everything like that so
Yeah.
far, just because it is part of the Apple ecosystem with their W1 chip and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like Dylan talks about his Apple ecosystem of like, he's already listening to something on his phone, but he tries to play something on his MacBook in the same vicinity. And his MacBook will literally ask him, do you want to play these on the Pixel or on your AirPods? Yes. And like without even him having to disconnect, reconnect, all that stuff, like you would have to do with
Beautiful
Bluetooth,
integration.
it just straight up moves itself over.
Now,
It's super
technically,
useful.
Google could do this too with a new phone.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, if you're using the next product on the list, which is the Pixelbook Go.
He sold his soul for that functionality. Continue.
It is a Pixelbook. It's another Chrome OS
Yeah.
laptop or whatever. It's supposed to have the aesthetic similar to a MacBook, even though
Yeah.
nobody wants to say that.
It's super thin. It's super
Yep.
lightweight. It looks good.
It honestly
13
looks just like the Microsoft version too. They
The
have
Surface,
their
yeah.
the Surface.
Yeah.
Yeah, similar. 13-inch display, 16 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage. It's supposed to be completely Chrome-based, so it's lightweight. It's got a Linux-based OS.
So
12
it actually has an OS.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Chrome OS is a custom-built operating system for the Mac or for their Pixelbook or Chromebooks, is what they used to be, built on Linux.
So it's built on, okay. Because I was researching this a little bit today, and there's so many people who are pointing out the fact that it's not it's almost like built on as if it were a Chrome browser. And I thought that was very bizarre that they wouldn't have any sort of offline functionality. So it's built on a Linux kernel, basically.
Right.
Yeah,
So there is offline functionality, but the thing is that the majority of things that you're going to use on this are
Require.
based to be online.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, literally, this is just supposed to be like a basic small productivity suite of using Google Docs
Yeah.
or Google Drive items and then using Chrome to browse the web.
See, that's what makes me super sad is because as a developer, I would like something that's a little bit more lightweight that can
Yeah.
easily be utilized. And this is like the perfect thing for me, except that it can't run the things I want.
$649 for
Yeah,
a
see-
wonderful lap. See, no. And I've been looking at this for a while because like the big question that came out for a while because there was a Chromebook that came out that had stellar specs at one point.
Yeah.
From a hardware perspective. And because the OS is very minimal anyway, the price was actually pretty respectable. It was around $1,000, and you were running like an i7, like a mobile i7,
Holy crap.
and 16 gigs of RAM and like
Yeah.
512 gigs of storage. I was like, wow, that sounds
Jesus.
fantastic.
That's pretty much what you're getting with the Microsoft version as well.
But there was no way to put an IDE on it.
Yeah, see, that's my problem. Is like I can't put an IDE. I can't put it like I love screwing around with Unity or something. Nothing will run on it.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, you're almost there. You're almost there.
They tried. But anyway, so like decent specs, 12 hours of battery life. Like I said, $650 or $649, whatever you want. Said roughly it'll weigh 2 pounds.
Yeah,
Actually, be
I
a
saw
super
that,
light,
yeah.
which is actually super exciting. Next up, this one to me is actually kind of a big deal because beforehand their pricing structure for this was terrible, but Nest Aware.
Yes.
So Nest is Google's rebrand of all of their Google Home products, essentially.
Hence my confusion.
Yeah, so everything's getting rebranded Nest. So you have the Nest Home Mini or the Nest Mini or whatever it's called now. You have the Nest Wi-Fi, Nest Mini. It's just called the Nest Mini. The Nest Wi-Fi. All of the cameras are going to continue, with the Nest product line.
Yes.
But the idea of them bringing this into the Nest ecosystem is integrating everything together. Now, Nest Aware takes that one step further. The old pricing structure was that Nest cameras had individual monthly prices for each camera and the
Correct.
recordings that came with them. Now, Nest Aware is supposed to be one flat price for your entire house, no matter how many cameras you got.
So how's that work for current subscribers? Because I may or may not have
It's
those.
going to have to convert it. Like the idea is you would set up a home
Okay.
and then add your Nest camera to that home and then move to the new pricing structure.
Note to self.
Yeah,
When's
it's
the
like
start?
$6 a month.
They said, I guess now it says now. Now it's a Nest. Now it's a flat fee. No, I'm sorry. They'll switch to the new pricing structure in early 2020.
Okay.
But you've got 2 tiers, $6 per month and $12 per month. The difference is 30 days versus of event history or event recordings versus 60 days, and then 10 days of 24/7 video history, which is
Yeah.
actually super. Like for as far as security goes, that's amazing. Like the fact that you've got 24/7 recordings that are constantly updating or uploading that kind of thing that you can go back 10 days on. Perfect.
And it's a closed system, like no one else is going to have access to it.
I mean,
hopefully, if they don't get
it's kind of an open system since it's online. Like,
Yeah, but it's
like
I was gonna
your
say,
cameras
like,
are constantly
I'm
uploading.
Making a joke.
Oh.
Thank God no one has that.
It was a little hard to tell.
I know.
Yeah.
That was the point.
Anyway,
Yeah, no. I was like, yeah, no shit.
Very
Why
violent
would
of
you
it.
trust that in your house?
Why would you trust anything in your house?
I don't.
There you go.
Except
Moving
for my
on.
PlayStation camera.
Nest Wi-Fi. Nest Wi-Fi is the next thing supposed to be replacing Google Wi-Fi, which
No.
Google Wi-Fi to me was it was overinflated. Like
Okay.
it was way too overrated at all, like for what it was designed to be and what it was advertised for. Now, for me, I'm more of a power user whenever it comes to my home network setup, that kind of thing. Like I've got static IP addresses for certain things. I've got virtual machines that need their own IP addresses on the network, that kind of thing. I need to be able to adjust port forwarding and other things that come with that. But the Google Wi-Fi is just not great for it. The
Okay.
Wi-Fi app, to me, is kind of lacking as far as the features go and has a few bugs here and there that prevent me from being a full power user with that kind of stuff. Better yet, from me being able to monitor certain activity on a network, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like I would like to be able to see some of that kind of stuff if I'm going to get an app advertised as the only way to connect to it. The other problem, too, is like we had the power outage or the power surge, for example. We lost the node that was advertising the Strange Gaming name network. So then we had to create a brand new network because we couldn't access the old one.
Yeah, that is a problem.
So like bugs like that kind of annoy me. The fact that I can't just sign into that device. I have to use the app that has to be connected to the internet. to be able to change settings and do testing with it. I can't even be on the network offline and test and everything like that.
That is a problem. I agree with that. Now, that being said, is this going to act similar to like a Wi-Fi mesh, like we've talked about before?
Yeah, it's the same product. It's a you'll buy individual nodes or a 3-node pack anyway to have a Wi-Fi mesh.
They have a 2-node pack and a 3-node pack.
Oh, I didn't see the 2-node pack.
Because I was reading in that article is they'll have a core node, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then they'll have a separate node that you can use to extend your network out, and that separate node will actually also act as a smart speaker.
Yeah.
And then you can also buy a third one, so you can.
Yeah, the idea is it's supposed to be the Google Home speaker added essentially as an integration. So you get the OKG word integration on all that stuff, which is actually kind of cool too, because you can use voice features. Like, let's say you group certain devices as your children's devices. The example they use in the Made by Google event video is that you could say OKG word cut off internet to the children's devices, the kids' devices.
That's cool, yeah.
And it's supposed to just shut them all down, essentially, like completely cut internet access to them. But it's supposed to be voice controlled.
My own children's devices.
Go around and flaunt it.
I think that's how Bree would organize all your stuff.
See, the problem is I'm too savvy for her.
Anywho.
That's not true.
I'm gonna make her watch this episode.
She can try and sit through the first 14 minutes and 95 seconds. That's right. There's 95 seconds in a minute.
Yes, there is.
Apparently. Anyway, 2-pack will cost $269. 3-pack will cost $349.
That's my only complaint. Is like that is a huge cost. And I mean, you guys have the Wi-Fi mesh here,
But it's actually comparable to most other mesh products on the market, though.
okay. See,
So, like, if you go with like Ubiquiti's system,
yeah, they're all that
$350,
price,
it's about the
which
same
is-
thing, yeah.
It's crazy. Like, do you think the Wi-Fi gain is that?
oh,
large?
tremendously.
Yeah. Okay.
So the idea is that they've got essentially dedicated channels anyway between the home node or the root node and the mesh nodes essentially.
Yeah.
So I think Ubiquiti did it a little bit better instead of saying one or instead of like Google does anyway, where any device can have any role here. Ubiquiti has like a set-top box essentially that is your core node, and then you've got two little antennas that literally just hide themselves into outlets around your house.
Okay.
And they're essentially like repeaters, but you don't end up with the downfalls of repeaters.
Yeah. Okay.
The idea is that you have dedicated channels for communication, and the host node is responsible for identifying which device has a better connection to which node, and then only sending your traffic to one or the other, so that it sort of declutters the network.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong; there's more overhead involved with it,
Of
but
course,
it's very optimized, which I'll give them a lot of credit for. But mesh to me is still not my favorite thing. I like having hardwired connections, like enterprise
Of course,
level
yeah.
connections, that kind of thing, and having nodes distributed like that. But it's cool to see that they're advancing that regardless.
yeah.
Nest Mini is the next one, which is literally a Google Home Mini.
Yep.
The biggest change with this is that they added a third microphone to better optimize noise cancellation for other people in the room, because one of the complications right now is that if there are other people talking in the room where you're trying to talk to the Home Mini, it would have trouble picking up your voice sometimes. So a third microphone in a third direction allows it to pick up which voice is trying to speak to it. And with the voice detection, it will try to listen for that voice or that tone.
Okay.
It'll
So it's
triangulate you.
super optimized. One of the interesting features with this that I didn't think was going to be a thing is they added a wall mount hole for it. Like, like the like double tiered hole or whatever, one big, one small. Like if you want to put a nail or a screw in the wall, you can hang it on the wall.
I actually don't think it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
No, I think it's kind of interesting, but like having something blue like this hanging on the wall is not exactly what I had in mind.
It looks like a smoke detector.
Yeah, I'm about to say, it was like you could play it off.
But in your kitchen, if you don't have the space on your counter,
Oh, yeah.
like I think that's a great idea.
Well, between the wires and everything else, you could have it built in.
Yeah.
So the interesting feature with in regards to smoke detectors, funny you talk about that, is that part of the new Nesta Wear system with the Google Home Mini, it can actually identify when CO2 or smoke alarms are happening inside the house using the microphones.
Call 911.
Well, no, it won't call 911 for you, but it will alert you and then give you the option to listen to it live or call for authorities based on the local location of the house.
That's interesting.
Like it'll just let you call I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Like,
All
first
I
off,
keep thinking in my head is, Google, your overlords want you to be safe.
well, I mean, how else?
They
You're
wanna
the,
keep
you're
you
the
alive
biggest
to keep
asset
buying
they've
their
got.
products,
So.
Yeah.
But I think that's a super useful
I
thing
agree.
anyway
I agree.
to use your home product for it. Now, last piece, and literally what was half of the damn presentation, is the Pixel 4.
He said the D word.
The D word. Dumb.
Pixel 4. Which has the fanciest camera in the business.
Super intriguing because Google is definitely still doubling down on the software aspect of taking pictures.
Yeah, I actually think that's really cool.
So much so that I think for 10 minutes or whatever, I forget the dude's name now that came out, but he is like their software director.
They went into it hardcore.
I mean, like, so they've been in depth with it for a while. Like HDR Plus still stands to be one of the best HDR systems that are out there as far as capturing low light and high light situations, that kind of thing, just because they do 9 exposures. And he literally talked about an algorithm for this of like the number of exposures you do, the square root of that. What's the inverse in a fraction called like that? You know,
I know what you're talking about, but you lost me already. Yeah.
But the idea is that the square root of that number, as the denominator there, is the percentage of improvement whenever it comes to HDR like that, or the amount of like
interesting
like darkness or depth you can see in highlight and low light situations, essentially. So like if you take 9 pictures, you'll have a 1/3 better picture whenever it comes to low light and highlight or high contrast situations.
That got me wondering what the inverse of a fraction is.
I can't remember now.
I know, you gotta keep
The
talking.
square root of a fraction is impossible.
That's why we're taking anyway.
I forgot what they call it. You know how long it's been since I've taken these classes? Oh my God, I feel
So anyway, Pixel 4 is boasting some pretty solid specs. There's the 4 and the 4 XL. The Pixel 4
multiplicative inverse is what they're saying, or reciprocal.
Reciprocal. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yep.
But anywho, Pixel 4 and
Thank
the
you, Google.
Pixel 4
I like to
XL
reciprocate.
will be 2 different pieces. So
Since when?
the 4 and the 4 XL have the same internal hardware and the same camera setup. Of course, the only difference is going to be the screen and the battery. Pixel 4 comes with a 5.7-inch screen and 2,800 milliamp hour battery. 4XL comes with a 6.3-inch screen and 3,700 milliamp hours.
What about the bezel?
So there is a massive forehead on this thing, which is completely unlike anything that you would expect for 2019, that kind of thing. Bezel-less is supposed to be the new design. However, Google is implementing a brand new piece of technology never before seen in mobile phones like this, using radar technology on the front face of the screen so that you can use hand gestures and other things like that. So my understanding is they've gotten rid of the proximity sensor, which is the two light sensors essentially that detects whether or not it's up to your ear.
Okay.
They've replaced that in favor of the radar sensor so that you can use hand gestures on the device. Like whenever you start to approach the device or put your hand towards it, it will automatically start to light the screen up to detect or to like present itself to you essentially. And then whenever you pick it up, it will actually turn the screen on for you without actually you having to press a button. Which is actually kind of a neat little software feature. Plus, if it's sitting on the table and you walk away from it completely, or you stop paying attention to it or whatever, it will eventually just turn the screen off.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I'd like some neat little features whenever it comes to that.
I like my phones like I like my Switch, full of bezel.
Thought you were going to say women.
Wow.
Only doing what I want.
Whoa! That is not at all what we are okay with here on the last podcast.
Okay.
You being all sensitive.
I'm always sensitive.
He's a sensitive boy.
Thank you. I'm a sensitive boy.
Anywho. Neat features like the alarm comes on, like you start to reach for it, the alarm dims out, like it starts to get like kind of quiet.
Terrible.
Kind of thing.
No. The whole point of the alarm is that I have to pick up the
me up,
phone.
but
No. Well, so the idea is it's on, but you get close to it and it starts to quiet down. So it like detects your presence trying to reach for it, and it'll get quieter.
This
so I'm
sounds
just going to
like
suffocate my phone.
Now, if you pull away from it, it will go back to normal. But part of the idea too is that you can also you can also use a hand gesture and just swipe across the area on top of the phone to swipe the
That
alarm
would be
away.
cool if you could do that and just be like, as you're like scrolling, you just do this as you're reading, so you don't actually have to touch the screen.
I imagine that would be a neat feature, but apparently the interesting part of this is what the dev kit looks like, because it's very in depth.
I'm sure it allows for customization of apps and stuff like that. Yeah,
I would imagine so. So, like neat features like that. The
has me intrigued.
I'm definitely interested to see it. Project Soli, SOLI. If anybody wants to look it up, anyway, that was the original project on
Project Soli, much like the pilot who saved those people in the flight going down the river.
Down by the river.
Anyway, last big piece anyway with this, anyways, the cameras. From a hardware perspective, everyone was expecting 3 cameras. Because they have the same black square in the top left-hand corner on the back side of the phone anyway that Apple does. But there are only 2 cameras on the back instead of 3. And the idea is that they got rid of the ultra wide because I guess not enough people were using it.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So they only have a 2x telephoto and then their normal 1x telephoto, but they also have their hyper zoom too, which allows you to zoom ahead of time, and it will use the two cameras together and an extended exposure to try to get better shot of the area.
I like this idea that they're like, that's right. You thought we were bringing 3 cameras? We brought 4 cameras. I mean 2 cameras. Sorry, I misread the notes.
No, but that's. I mean, really, it like everything else is mostly from a software perspective. They talked about Google Assistant, which actually has some neat features.
Yeah,
it's minor stuff. Like one of the things was asking it to go to Ticketmaster.com. And then asking it on that page to search, and it just automatically entered in the search bar and entered the search query to look for whatever event they were trying to go for.
Pretty cool.
So now it was in the browser too. It's not like they were in the Ticketmaster app or anything like that. It was like just much more intuitive voice navigation and use with Google Assistant.
Okay.
Interesting.
I'm actually debating on pre-ordering one.
If you do, you can unbox it on this show.
Indeed. Yeah. I'm debating on it. Everybody knows I kind of flip through phones kind of quick. I think I bought this 6 months after I bought the OnePlus 6T. So
Yes, that's correct.
yeah. So
Not to take into account the Razer phone.
That failure.
well, that was a return. So I don't really count that one necessarily.
Fair enough, but it is really cool. I believe Google is moving in interesting ways. I do wish they would stop with the rebrand until they've, I don't know, come up with a different product, because it's not even that they're different products. They're just literally taking their products and rebranding them. I get it. Nest is a trusted brand and they bought it.
Yeah, so I mean, they purchased the Nest brand. It's become a trusted home product.
It's
and instead of having 2 different lines, because part of this too was
simplification.
Yeah. I mean, from a back end perspective too, they merged the dev kits on these. So like all of this like builds into like the Nest ecosystem essentially, where all the devices run under the same platform now. I'm okay with this move anyway. Like the Nest, the renaming.
You don't purchase Nest. I actually have a subscription and have cameras, and it was very disconcerting when I'm like, "What Nest? Oh, that's just a Google Home. That's not anything. Like I don't need that." Like as a consumer, I'm being serious for a second. Like it is kind of a problem because I am someone who is. I like to consider up on technology, hence why I'm on this podcast here. We're here having a discussion about it, and it's still confusing to me that they made this rebrand.
Well, I mean,
and what products are actually going to benefit me from a security standpoint.
Well, it'd be more confusing for people if they had multiples of the same thing with different names.
Well, but because that's kind of the point. Like you were talking about, oh, well, I don't need a Google Home, I need a Nest product. Well, now you have like the suite of Nest products.
But that Nest product is literally a Google Home. Like it doesn't do anything else for me.
But the idea is like for anybody who might have looked at the Google Home and said, oh, well, like this isn't going to connect to Nest because it's not a Nest product. Well, now it is a Nest product.
Mm-hmm.
But the Google Home would still connect to Nest.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. But what I'm saying is like for the people who like don't look at it as if it is a Nest product, it is now a Nest product. Like it integrates their entire ecosystem together. And then people from there can just associate Nest with Google.
Integrates.
Or actually...
Always trying to integrate things.
Integration.
Please
all of this works great until Fuchsia comes around.
Correct.
Fuchsia.
Or the future. Let us know what you think about...
As Brent enjoyed to call it.
Fuchsia.
Please let us know what you think about the Big G event down in the comments above us. Oh,
below!
Almost got him!
Below!
Moving on to handsome John over here, looking so handsome today.
Well, thank you.
We're going to talk about a little bit something going on with Steam.
Yeah, Steam's actually doing something that I find is very interesting. So they have just announced that they are going to release a feature called Remote Play Together, beta starting on October 21st, where you're going to have split screen or
new medical procedure coming out, split spleen.
My mouth. So local multiplayer or split screen would be able to be played online with other friends without them actually having to buy the other game, having to bought the game, which I think is very interesting. And at the same time, I don't know how they're going to get around some of this.
It sounds very familiar to a feature that is well known on PlayStation 4.
Which is?
Remote play.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, remote
Share play.
Okay, share play.
Yeah.
There you go. I was like, what? You could do that on remote play?
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, like, say you're playing Call of Duty, like campaign or whatever. So you're literally having 2 people enjoying this campaign on co-op through
only if Call of Duty has a local co-op in it.
a local co-op or split screen.
Yeah, but that has to be built into the game, which I don't think Call of Duty has done in years.
I don't think they've done since Advanced Warfare.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I have no idea.
It's been a minute.
They might have local verses or something like that. I don't know if they've
Actually, I think Modern Warfare does.
That
I'd have
I
to
would
double
see
check. I'm pretty
because
sure they do.
Modern Warfare is the first one to really bring back heavy story
Heavy
mode.
story
and all that
mode.
stuff.
Doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing the co-op, though. It is entirely possible.
But it'd be cool for a game like Castle Crashers, where
Yeah.
it's not a high price game anyway, but at the same time, the developers want that money.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's got to burn them a little bit.
Well,
And-
you were going to do the same thing anyway. The difference is that they just don't have to come over to your house now.
Yeah, essentially, and that's where I kind of like come to the rationalization where I think it's kind of cool because I do love playing co-op.
Yeah.
I do love playing split screen with my friends. Though it is better that they are there. That's
Yeah.
kind of what makes half the fun. But you know, at the same time, where you know they don't actually have to buy the game is cool for us as consumers, but as developers, I can see where you kind of feel the burn.
It is a really interesting idea. I think the problem is that as game developers, they've moved so far away from couch co-op. Like a majority of the titles that you think would have it are either not on Steam or they're smaller titles, like you're saying, Castle Crashers.
Yeah.
Like be really great with A Way Out, which our co-op crew is still playing through right
Which
now.
they built that in themselves, essentially. They said,
Correct.
hey, here's a free code that you can play with a friend. We want you to play with somebody because it is the experience
That's
that we
neat.
want you to have.
If you're being a little stingier, though, you could play with a friend and then give the code to somebody else.
Yeah.
But, you know, I do think it has an interesting idea behind it. I think the problem is right now is that most of the gaming stratosphere has left that behind enough that it's ultimately doesn't matter, which is why I think they included it now.
Yeah. It's a really cool function. I think that I would like to see it actually being used. I know that someone like us would definitely love to do that because we have a gaming household, and it's like, you know, instead of us having to sit next to each other, we could actually play online co-op without having to buy another game and sitting next to each other, which would be super
Oh
nice.
yeah, that'd be neat. I mean, like even if we had to, like if we were trying to do a game night or something like that, and you know somebody just couldn't join us for some reason, you know, like
It just took the day
people,
off.
people missing, you know, the podcast for this or that reason, you know, I'm just
Not
saying.
being sick.
But
Totally interesting that, you know, John got no
Because I was sick.
yeah, sick.
I was sick. I was dying.
And I had an event that I told you both about.
That's not being sick. So anyway, they're using this using an plugin for multiplayer 2 using an overlay. So they basically, for instance, just an accepted invitation. You basically are hosting, and then
Yeah.
they play off of that host. So that's pretty cool.
from a software development
Up to
perspective,
4 players can play, by the way.
yeah.
See, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So-
that right there is interesting.
To me, it's super interesting anyway the way that they're doing this because they're literally implementing virtual controllers
Yeah.
like on your system essentially that are connecting via the internet. Like that, that's how this whole thing works anyways. It's a video stream out from your home internet connection to whoever's joining you. And then they set up a virtual client with like their own gamepad or
Yeah.
whatever, that kind of thing that you're remote controlling from a distance essentially to control a game.
Well, SharePlay does that too, but
Yeah, I was gonna
they
say.
take over. You're not playing with each other.
So you can share play with someone and you can either take over their game or you can play co-op together.
Okay, I didn't
Yeah.
know you could play co-op.
Yeah.
Okay,
But I
I
just
have
think it's
done the SharePlay where they take over.
I just think it's cool from a software perspective that they add like virtual controllers essentially in here to do this anyway, because that means there's a whole hardware perspective
Oh,
that comes into
100%.
it because they want to be able to add the support for games that are expecting hardware to be there. So I think it's neat that that's how they're implementing it. It's a neat
Yeah.
little concept.
I think it's going to be very useful, and I'm excited to see it being used in the future.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is a feature that's going to catch on so much more and be in all the next gen consoles. Like,
Yeah.
it seems like a no-brainer at this point.
It's weird. This is basically what Stadia is trying to implement, except you know everybody's literally remote. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's weird.
you have
Except
to buy-
it's you're
you would have to
connected
buy-
to a Google data center. It's a little
Yeah.
bit quicker.
Yeah, but you would
know.
have to buy the game to do
Or
that.
your internet connection goes down and then you can't play a game at all.
Well, then you also can't do share play, so or
That's true, but I can still play it in my house on my console.
I mean,
then the other guy can just piss off.
Yeah.
I'll also be
Brent's,
interested to see
Brent's
what.
going for the high score today.
Yeah, yeah, he is.
To be fair, I egged one on. So
That is true. 2 on.
what's the release date on this?
Probably 3. It's out now, I think, right?
No, the beta comes out on October
Okay,
21st.
There you go.
Okay, cool.
There you go.
We'll definitely be trying it here.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll be trying a few things here, if you know what I mean. Moving on to the
I don't know what he means.
second
Not at all.
largest. I don't know. The Google took longer than I thought. I'm not gonna lie. Topic of the
It was a big
show.
topic.
We're talking about Blizzard, of course.
What? Why?
Oh,
Everybody's
man.
probably so sick
Oh,
of hearing
man.
about it.
Yeah.
I feel like Blizzard's probably done a great job. Everybody's very happy with them.
Yeah.
They want nothing to do but just discuss
Just
praise
throw money at them.
and greatness to them. Yeah. Oh, somebody's coming up for my high score. In case you missed it,
That
there
one's worth
was the
two.
Hearthstone Championship in. I actually think it was in the U.S. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Last week, Hearthstone Championship, and
Yeah, it
we
was.
had the champion here, whose name is Blitzchung Ningwei, and I apologize if I completely butchered
Murdered
that name.
the crap out of it.
I probably did.
Ningwei.
However, during his whole acceptance speech, where he was very excited to take home the Hearthstone Championship along with the prize money, he decided that he was going to talk about his own views of having a free Hong Kong.
Who wants freedom?
Pretty much immediately afterwards, he was suspended. His prize money was taken away, and the two casters.
I thought it took a day or two for them to.
No, it was
It
fairly
was fairly
quick.
immediate.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the two casters who were alongside with him were fired
Okay,
Disassociated completely.
because they could not control the person who was in
situation.
charge.
That doesn't sound communistic at all.
Correct.
that's it. Okay, legitimately, out of this entire thing, that's the part I don't understand.
Why didn't you stop him? I'm not in charge of him. Boom.
Exactly.
The casters were literally doing their job,
100%.
and he can't control. They can't control what he says. They don't know his viewpoints.
I was hoping they fired the cameraman too for not smashing the camera into the floor.
So
That would be interesting.
we have a timeline of some very interesting events that have happened
Yeah.
since then. All right.
Yep.
So he gets stripped of his title. Casters are fired. He loses his winnings.
People freak out.
People freak out. Ironically enough, in Hong Kong, Mei, who's a character from from Overwatch, is being seen as like this icon of the Hong Kong freedom
Oh, they're
movement.
making drawings and all sorts of stuff.
and
Like, it's-
cosplay and all kinds of stuff. It's actually quite
Didn't that come up
wonderful.
as
Yeah.
almost a result of this?
I'm not sure if it was almost as a result. It happened seemingly parallel
Yeah.
to it as the news stories were coming out for both,
Yeah.
which was interesting to me. The Reddit Blizzard Reddit closes down, like the actual Reddit shut down because they just didn't want to deal with it.
They were getting
Overwatch
annihilated.
Reddit still gone, but and same with Hearthstone. But the Blizzard Reddit closes down. We have Blizzard staff actually went out to their in the middle of the headquarters of Blizzard, like the development studio. They actually have statues of like an orc and a couple other things from WoW, and they have their 8 beliefs as a company. And one of them was, I have to like go through my phone because there's a lot of notes here, so I apologize for seemingly being on my telephone while we
So
talk.
rude.
I know.
They did it with a couple of them, didn't they?
So there's 2 of them specifically that I wanted to point out.
Yeah.
They have multiple values. There's 8 values that are core values that the company put out there, and one of them was every voice matters, and the other one was think globally. Both of those were blacked out by employees. They actually went out there and like put
Covered them.
paper and covered.
That's
them up.
amazing.
Yeah.
What better way to say, hey,
On top of that, it looks like the Overwatch Switch port pre-orders have dropped tremendously. People are asking for returns on every
Yep.
level, like from various retailers to the digital store, everything along
God.
those lines.
Yeah.
What a better way to shoot yourself in the foot.
Correct.
they look at that and just give me money.
And I don't know if you had this one in there or not, but streamers were actually talking about boycotting Hearthstone until
did not.
this was reversed.
Yeah, I
So
did
there
not.
there were a lot of public streamers anyway who actually tweeted out that said there was one in particular, I can't remember who it was, tweeted out saying, look, I know a lot of you guys are trying to say just drop Hearthstone, don't stream it anymore, that kind of thing. Instead, let's go with an alternative of, look, we'll start streaming Hearthstone again when this is reversed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, because they still enjoy the game,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, and I get
It's a
that.
good stance.
But the idea is,
Yeah.
we're just going to drop content for it entirely. Your game is essentially going to disappear from Twitch.
Yeah.
And until all this is reinstated.
We'll see how important it is to you.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Exactly.
Especially considering here's Blizzard's response to the entire thing.
An American company,
Yeah.
it allowed free speech. That should happen.
From President J. Allen Brack, he released a statement saying, quote, our esports programs are an expression of our vision and our values. Esports exists to create opportunities for players from around the world, from different cultures and from different backgrounds, to come together to compete and share their passion for gaming. It is extremely important to us to protect these channels and the purpose they serve, to bring the world together through epic entertainment, celebrate our characters, and build diversity in inclusive communities. The specific views expressed by Blitzchung were not a factor in the decision we made. I want to be clear, our relationship with China has no influence on our decision. We have these rules to keep the focus on the game and on the tournament to the benefit of a global audience, and that was the only consideration in the actions we took. If this had been the opposing viewpoint delivered in the same divisive and deliberate way, we would have felt and acted the same way, end quote.
I know that all of you are going to be like, this is horse shit. there's a part of me that agrees with this.
So I want to
No,
I want to finish the timeline first, and then we
Okay.
can discuss. So at the same time that that statement released here in the United States, another statement was released in China in which they said, "We are horribly offended and sorry for what he said." So may have been a mistranslation, but what came off was, "We're sorry we upset you," which is part of the reason why this feels so hollow.
Yeah.
On top of that,
Because it's not I mean, there's no part that's an apology for their actions.
correct. They have not hired back the casters. However, they have changed the suspension to 6 months, and they've given back the prize money to Blitzchung.
They brought back the casters.
Oh, I remember they have a
They have a
suspension,
they have a
6 months
suspension now as well.
And then the final part is
Still
that
doesn't make sense to me.
I know.
they had a console event at the Nintendo World Store in New York City tomorrow, which is Wednesday. That has been canceled. So that is the timeline of events that have happened with all this.
I could totally understand why they did that.
Oh, I would cancel that too.
Oh, I got a freaking bad habit. So the part of me that agrees with this is the fact that the way that Blitzchung used the opportunity for a political gain, I do understand. It's like, that's not what this is for. We're here for gaming. This is what this is about. This is the message that Blizzard wanted to do. Like, this is our business.
Yeah.
This is what we mean. And granted, Blitzchung, I don't know if he has the technically, you know how some companies give you the rights to talk on behalf of them and stuff like that.
So that's part of being in Masters.
Yeah.
Masters level is an acceptance level to Hearthstone. Just like it is with every other esport that exists under Blizzard's realm. Just like I think it's called Masters actually for StarCraft 2 and Overwatch. There are certain requirements that you're required to meet, essentially, or standards you're supposed to conduct yourself with, essentially, because you are now a representative of Blizzard to some extent, because you
carry enough weight to hurt
your
them.
name, you're doing well enough that you're going to be enough of a public figure on their behalf, essentially, because you are an Overwatch player, you're a StarCraft player, you're a Hearthstone player, that kind of thing, which are their names.
Correct.
So you are carrying their names with your reputation.
Yeah, and which is why I can totally understand why Blizzard's like, look, man, this is why we said we don't take political stances. This is why we don't do this. But what they did was obviously in betterment of their wallet.
Yeah,
and
of their
that's what
relationship
made
with
me
China.
mad.
To be fair, that's what the terms of service are for. It's meant to better their name,
but
better
what
their
they
wallet.
did to
and
the
that kind of thing.
casters was ridiculous.
So I agree with you there. The casters should not be blamed for this at all. They can't control what he says. The only thing they could have done is whenever he says something like that, he's yanked the mic from him.
Yeah.
That's about it.
or even say, this is not the beliefs of Blizzard. This is his own statements. Or something to try to negate some kind of impact.
Yeah.
I could totally understand that. I don't know if they would necessarily be
but the
trained
other-
in that fact.
But the other question is, how much do they even know about what's happening in China at that point? Because I'll be honest, like until this happened, I hadn't heard much about what the movement was in China at the time.
Oh my God, it's been
Hong Kong, yeah.
in a lot
So
of the news.
it's-
But
that's-
if you're not in that realm,
Exactly.
it was
Yeah.
ignored.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
noticed that too because until I started looking at a couple things, it never even showed up in my feed.
Yeah.
Which kind of worries me in a lot of ways because I do look at a lot of political things, and the fact that it wasn't there was kind of
You should change what you watch.
Well, what?
I mean, that's what it comes down to, is that the algorithm is
Well, there's
Catered
only
to what you
four
look at.
things.
Yeah.
Like when I go back and forth, it reloads it and it would be there. But like just the initial stuff. And granted, I kind of hit some clickbait stuff, so I got to get that out of my system. You know? I don't know.
But no, I understand. Or I agree with you there that the caster should not be blamed for it. I don't blame them for punishing the player. I do blame them for how severe the punishment was.
But at the same time, like I do feel like the need to say that you should be able to say whatever you want. I mean, look at for instance, for the NFL players, that technically was in the same realm of, hey, this is your job. You shouldn't be able to take a social stance and promote that during the NFL. Like this is our time. We're paying for this network distribution. You're being paid to play a game.
Well, so here's the interesting part about that. Did you guys hear what happened with the
NBA.
the NBA and the Rockets?
Yeah.
yeah.
So, for those who don't know, the head coach tweeted out in support of the freedom movement in Hong Kong. Immediately, the tweet was deleted, and he had a ton of backlash, and then the tweet got deleted. But in the result of that, or the wake of that, Tencent, who is one of the biggest streaming platforms anyway for the NBA in China,
Which also owns
flat out
2K.
said we are not going to broadcast Rockets games until this is apologized for.
Yeah.
Now the funny part is the NBA and the head coach both put, or what was the manager, both put out statements about it, but neither one of them apologized for it, but it was taken as an apology. The funny part is, of course, the orange-haired menace had to get his hands involved here and had to reply back saying that, oh, this is an outrage that you're apologizing for this and all that stuff. You shouldn't be, and they had to be very clear, like, no, we're not. Like, one of the NBA's core beliefs is having open speech like that, and anybody should have the freedom to speak how they want to speak.
The biggest part of me that hurts me is that Blizzard stands behind our flag and what our country stands for, and yet will take into a situation where they're going to let China push them around.
Well, it's Activision. I think that's more.
Well,
So
yeah,
here-
Activision.
hammer down on
Here's
this.
the big issue: is that let's look at the past year for Blizzard. They've had no real game to launch. They've had Overwatch, which is slowly dwindling. They're finally putting a couple ports out there. They have the announcement of Diablo Immortal, which is made by Tencent, right? It's some Chinese company. It's made not here in the U.S. It is
More than
made,
likely, Tencent is one of the biggest
made to
mobile app
appeal
manufacturers.
to Chinese game players, seemingly abandoning a lot of what people want in that market, which I don't necessarily agree with because we haven't played the game. But from what we saw, could very well be the case.
From the numbers I saw, it was like 25% compared to the U.S. market.
Yeah, and then on top of that, we have
NetEase.
this. Okay, yeah, NetEase. We have this situation, and while I agree, I tend to agree more with your emotional sentiment, which is the players should have the freedom to say whatever they want to say. I understand that they also set these guidelines down, and therefore he will get punished for the guidelines. But the problem is the guidelines in general. It's ridiculous.
Well, so maybe the difference should be here should be the platform. If he hadn't done it on a Blizzard stream,
Okay.
in his congratulations speech,
Which is
that kind
why
of thing
I
at the
agree
end
with
of the game,
Blizzard in this instance.
and I understand that this is their platform, their words essentially coming out because it's being done on their system or on their accounts.
Yep.
If he had done it
That's
on his
fair.
own time on his own Twitter, they may have just given him a slap on the wrist and say, "Don't do that
See,
again."
I don't
Even
know
then,
though because
yeah,
you were
that-
just talking about that NBA coach who did it on his own Twitter.
Yeah.
and
But the
and-
NBA didn't tell him to take it down; he took it down.
No, I understand that, but he did it on his
No,
own
we don't know
Twitter,
that.
and still there was backlash because of it. Like, regardless of the platform,
Right.
doing business with China means that you can't speak out against China.
Yeah, which
what
to
it
me
comes
is
down
which is why
it's
if I was
it's the Chinese government specifically, the communist Chinese government specifically.
when Blizzard put out that statement and they said, "Okay, we're going to give you your winnings. We're going to take it back to 6 months." I would have said, if I was Blitzchung, I would have told him, "Keep the winnings, kiss my ass. You're not for
No,
democracy."
I'd 100% take the winnings, and I would publicly donate it to any kind of cause that helps free Hong
Yeah,
Kong.
there you go. Even
100%.
better. You're smarter
easily.
than I am. That's
you
why.
could be petty about it and then just drop Hearthstone and say, because of this, I'm never going to play Hearthstone again.
But like the fact that you are trying to promote something that is so blatantly obvious, such as like, I want to keep democracy in my life. I'm like, this isn't. I would even explain to China, be like, we live in a democratic government. I don't know what to tell you. These beliefs aren't offensive to us.
But the problem is
the
they
problem.
don't. The problem
Yeah.
is they don't care.
Yeah.
And that's
so
fine. But at the
10
same time, like, if you're going to be that money hungry, that you're going to eat that kind of publicity for the money that China creates, then I'm sorry, but you get everything you deserve from what people are doing to you
Well,
right
so-
now.
And that's where everyone stands right now.
Well, so the funny part is, like for the NBA, for example, China is like 45% of their profit share.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's a massive chunk of their profit. Now, granted, they only did it to the Rockets, which, by the way, the Rockets are the biggest team.
They are the biggest
rooted
team in
for
China.
In China because of what's his name, the super tall Chinese basketball player. I can't think of his name right now.
Yeah.
Yao Ming.
Yao Ming. That's
yeah.
it.
I was like, tout? No.
So because Yao Ming anyway was like a star player anyway for the Rockets at the time anyway, that's what made them famous. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But suddenly their broadcasts are no longer to be found. Like, so it's an interesting spot for the NBA to be in, which ultimately puts Blizzard in the same kind of tricky spot there. But they also have terms of service and legal documentation that they can back themselves up on and say, this is
It's
why
so
we did this.
broad.
We're justifying ourselves in doing this, even though the community may say that's kind of fucked up. Like, they can still do what they want in that respect because they did sign an agreement in being in the Masters League saying that this is how they would conduct themselves.
Yeah.
This is also why, as a community, you have to speak out. That's why you
Yeah.
cancel these pre-orders. That's why these streamers
Oh,
are
yeah,
stopping.
man.
Speak with your wallet
I mean,
100%.
you 100% hit them
Now-
where it hurts because,
now-
yes, China holds a good market share, but if we also show that we're not going to take their shit, then they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and they have to figure out what they're going to do.
Well, and that's going to be the hard part is like we're going to like, hey, okay, so here in the U.S. anyway, being in a republic system anyway, we're going to support a democratic system anyway that's similar to ours in that respect, or a movement towards a democratic system. So we're in support of what he said, or really we don't care what he said, that kind of thing. We just want to be okay with free speech in that respect because he was on U.S. soil when he said it.
Yeah.
So. The fact that the fact that they're going to have to bend to the will anyway of two different sides here pushing, they're going to have to pick one.
Oh, 100%.
Now, either they pick their home country or they're going to have to pick,
their smartest move was to do nothing.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Why they decided to do what they did was retarded.
So-
and then they thought that they were going to get a middle of the way. I didn't mean to say retarded. That was dumb. I'm trying to be a little more PC with myself.
Saying
right?
retarded was dumb, or
Saying retarded was dumb. Yes, I am dumb. So, the fact that they tried a middle of the way approach was the worst thing they could have ever
100%.
done.
oh yeah.
Outside of not saying anything, saying, look, we stick to our beliefs and goals. They violated terms of service.
I mean,
that's the end of it. People would have eventually probably agreed with that.
If they had put a statement out first,
Agreed.
and said, we apologize for anyone who may have been offended by the statements of Blitzchung in regards to the Free China movement. As a result, we are going to be giving him this punishment, that kind of thing. But it would have to be minor.
So I wouldn't even announce what the
per our
punishment
term.
was.
Yeah.
I would
Just done
literally
it.
just go, we apologize for the fact that he said that on our broadcast. We do believe that our players should have their own viewpoints, but they should not express it on our channel.
Yes.
We will handle this internally, and we will make sure he is punished for it.
Yeah.
Done.
Okay.
That is your
I
statement.
mean, it's still going to be public regardless.
That's fine.
But at the same
whole
time, but you
point
already
is-
put your statement out. Like you're in
Correct.
front of
Yeah,
it
yeah.
saying, look, this is
Yeah.
why we're upset.
The news is Blizzard's going to handle this, and then you handle it by giving him the 6 months probation.
Instead, you go off
instead
the
it sound-
chain
instead
and
it sounds like-
fire casters and then almost
Take all
and
this
ban
money
him and then take away all of his earnings.
Like-
Like, I'm going to punish you for what you just did. And it's like, how more authoritarian could you act in a punishment
It sounds like
over
an
something
asshole
so
parent.
stupid?
Yeah, 100%. Like the entire problem with this situation isn't what they did so much as how they went about doing it.
Right.
And the timeline, I think, expresses that perfectly.
Yeah.
Because you can watch the action reaction over and over and over again as they're trying to find their footing on this castle of sand that's falling apart underneath them.
That they built
yeah, 100%.
out of dry sand.
Yeah. Very, very dumb.
Yep.
But you know, it is what it is now. I'm very curious to hear if anybody has any opinions on the situation
Yeah.
themselves. If they themselves were going to look forward to another Blizzard product, or they drop it. I mean, I know people personally, like whom I work with and whom I've talked to, who are considering canceling their WoW Classic subscriptions.
Oh, actually,
Yeah.
I completely forgot. Part of this too was a massive rush of people coming to Blizzard to cancel their accounts,
and then
which
Blizzard shutting down the ability to cancel your account.
Which,
Well,
by
so-
the way, is horse.
Well, so first off,
crap.
the process to cancel your account is already
I'm not
that you
gonna
have to
mention.
call them and tell them personally. And if you can't prove who you are well enough using your ID, then they won't cancel your account. But the other thing too, the only thing I don't get about the whole canceling account thing is that Blizzard still wins on this one. Because you cancel your account, they reverse everything because they see people canceling their accounts, or their user count suddenly goes down, or their view count on Hearthstone on Twitter
Yeah.
or Twitch starts to go down. Well, then they reinstate everything, or reinstate half the things and do exactly what they did, and they start to reinstate some things. Well, that means you've got to go back, make a new Blizzard account, and repurchase everything. So they kind of went out in that respect anyway.
Oh, because they
You
keep the money
like
both
if you
ends.
stop playing,
Yeah, if you're-
they get a hard hit because their player count drops.
yeah.
And their view count on Twitch drops, and the popularity of the entire platform drops because, like, kids, for example, that don't really know or care about what's
Yeah.
going on, they're the ones that are going to see what's popular. Well, if Hearthstone just drops off the popular list on Twitch, that's going to be much bigger hit than just like you canceling your account and having to repurchase the game later.
They're
Anyway.
going to start going over to the ASM where the chick's like sucking on ears. It's dangerous.
ASMR is what he was trying to say.
What did I say?
You just said ASM, and I was
Oh,
like, I don't
sorry,
know what
ASMR.
that means.
I was really hoping he was going for BDSM, like, and I respect it.
To mouth, ATM. Yeah.
Once again, let us know what you think about the Blizzard situation in the comments floating above me nebulously, much like Blizzard's character.
Oh.
Now I think it's time for
I was going to
last
say
call.
down in hell, like Blizzard's character.
Last call! You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. My notes are now on my phone today because I had all that timeline split out here. Of course, we talked about our Dark and Stormy. The preferred dark rum that I used is Sailor Jerry, though Kraken is also very good. So,
Yes.
of course, you know,
That is my girlfriend's
If you like
preferred
a little
choice
bit more
there.
of a spicier tone, Kraken's
Kraken's very good. It is, again, ginger ale or ginger beer. slice of lime, and a dark rum. Very, very tasty. Of course, we have a few shout outs. Our boy Patrick Akibab Hollifield is still streaming, our only streamer on Mixer, as we found out last week.
Yeah.
He is streaming away. Please feel free to reach over there, and that won't have anything to do with your Twitch subs if you are a Twitch Prime member. So you can use one of those to throw to, of course, Straya or B Scotch and Dots.
And he does not stream Hearthstone.
And he does not stream Hearthstone. So
Yeah,
there you
there
go.
you
B Scotch and Dots. Why is he sweating? He's not even sweating. The co-op crew, as we were discussing earlier, is continuing their progression through a way out. It looks like Tumbleweed and Predator 4D10 4010. I don't know why I held on that 4D.
For the letter D, 10.
They're making their way through a way out. Hopefully they'll be done soon. And I believe we have some new games coming in the co-op crew. We shall see here in the near
I think they
future.
finished. I
Indeed.
think they finished a way out, and it's also been published. According to Kepley.
Capley!
It doesn't matter. We'll figure out later. You can either go look at all the videos or see if they finished it yourself. Oh my God, this is like a mystery theater. Of course, we had to move on. We have an RSS feed. If you at all don't want to subscribe to YouTube Prime, is that what? I don't know what it is. YouTube Red?
YouTube Red.
Yeah.
Premium. YouTube Premium.
Yeah, there you go.
It used to be YouTube Red.
Yeah, I completely understand. You can visit us on Spotify. You can visit us on Google Play. You can visit
Stitcher.
us Stitcher, and eventually, one day,
Google Podcasts will be showing up eventually, and Apple Podcasts will be showing up
we're working on that.
sometime in the next couple weeks because their account recovery process is bullshit.
But we also have a link to our RSS feed in the description, so you can add that to whatever.
Actually, no.
podcast-
Actually, you can check us out at happyhour.strangegaming.com. That has all of our
That's in
episodes.
the description.
Yeah,
sir.
not the RSS feed.
Yeah, it's a link thing.
Anyway.
We got it.
Down in the description, happyhour.strangegaming.com.
Description above me. Then we, of course, we have our Discord. Please join. And no, it's not something cool like Mr. Dispatcher wanted it to be, because Discord creates their own links. We can't customize the link, unfortunately. You're like, oh, maybe it'll be Strange Happy Hour. Pff, noob. And of course, there's also
Whatever. I want it to be intuitive, God forbid.
latest Humble Bundle. I like to pimp these because it goes to a good cause. You get some cool stuff. They have a RPG Maker bundle right now, which can give you a ton of content to help you make your own 2D RPGs. They don't have to be RPGs. RPG Maker is just in game engines, can be utilized to make all kinds of games. There's wonderful games out there like To the Moon, which is a mobile game that's also on PC that's more like a graphic novel. So check that out as well. And finally, question of the week. I wanted to be snarky and be like, where did Copley go? But nobody cares. So we're going to move on to the actual question of the week, which is, what old
you did.
people things do you do?
Old people things.
Yeah, like something you would classify like as an old person. I got a couple of these.
My closet is completely organized with wooden hangers.
You are so old.
I can say that mine is too. Like, I have T-shirts in one section, I have polos in another, I have button-up shirts in another
The fact
section.
that you guys hate
I have
t-shirts
sweaters in
is
another
so
section.
ridiculous to me.
What else was the other one? Oh, I have all my dress stuff, like my suits and whatnot in one corner, that kind of thing. And then I've got a separate section for like my coats and whatnot.
I,
I want to find something unique though. I feel like I could do something different.
the thing is, it depends on how like old school you think. Like nowadays, old school is almost like, oh, you actually care about cutting your bushes. Well, that's funny. You know what I mean?
Oh my
Like,
God, you mow your own lawn.
Wow, you peasant.
I enjoy cleaning. And not not just like, ooh, I'm gonna like clean the counter. No, like
Cleaning the house clears the head.
100%.
No, actually, I enjoy cleaning my cars.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I've got 2 cars and the motorcycle, whatever. I enjoy so
Living the high life.
last Saturday on the Charger, I think I spent 5 hours with a detail spray, a specific cleaner for my Alcantara and all that stuff, and I scrubbed everything.
There you go.
Everything. Windows, inside out. I even like scrubbed like the individual pieces of plastic. I pulled everything out of like the shifter in the middle, and then I scrubbed the Alcantara to try to pull the dirt out of it.
In my
It
old
looks
Ford Focus,
awesome.
I used to take out my seats and carpet clean it.
Jeez. I just have WeatherTech.
Like take it apart.
I have
You should see
WeatherTech
how he
mats. I don't
cleans
take apart
that.
the seats. That's a little much, but
You should see how he cleans the Subaru station wagon.
Soup kitchen.
Funny jokes for people who get it.
I'm so lost.
For a long time. So here's probably the most old person thing I can think of. I was drinking coffee with creamer, swapped out of creamer to black coffee so that I could cut the calories, right? Then the black coffee was causing me so much heartburn, I had to go back to cream. So that is my life as an old person
my
at the age of 30.
I got one. Before we have pizza, I have to have Tums.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
See, I just grit through that.
Last night's another one. I looked at the clock and looked at it was 9 o'clock, and I was like, I'm gonna get the best night of sleep ever. Because I never get to go to bed that early. I'm looking at my bed. I'm like, baby, I'm gonna wear you out.
John and I used to sleep on average 4 hours at most.
At most. For the longest time, and now it's caught up, and we're like, I like sleep. I want it. I like it a lot.
See, I don't know if this is necessarily an old person thing, but I've started focusing on the comfort of like little things now.
Okay.
I have started buying premium boxers.
Oh yeah, I get it.
Like just a simple comfort of life stuff thing. Like that like as a younger guy or whatever, I was like, yeah, let me walk in Hanes. This is cool. It's like $12. Let me throw that down.
Yeah.
Now I spent $35 on one pair of boxers, but it is the softest, most wonderful thing I've ever put on my balls.
See, that's how I feel about cocktails now. Where like I go out of my way to make the cubes, I go out of my way to get the ingredients, to get the orange so I can cut it to like get
zest everything.
Perfect. Because if I'm gonna make a cocktail, I'm gonna make a goddamn cocktail.
I was gonna say, like,
good.
I don't know, like, I mean, like nobody on camera obviously can see like the bar setup that we've got going on here, but I've also like bought mixers and things like that. But I just realized I have 6 different types of whiskey in the house right now.
That's necessary.
I have
That's
two
beautiful.
types of scotch, like of aged scotch, like small or
I love
small
scotch.
batch. I've got a small batch whiskey sitting right here in the decanter that I've got for it.
Yes, of course.
And then I've got 2 other bottles of scotch downstairs, or whiskey downstairs. One of which is a 1.75 liter, like a full handle.
That's how you drink whiskey.
Like I've just started buying. Oh no, there you go. I've started buying whiskey in the handles because it's cheaper and more efficient, and I know eventually I will drink it.
I don't know. I think that's it. I think that's all that makes me an old man.
I'm trying to think. Like, I'm still fairly young.
Yeah, I mean, we're not getting old, but there's definitely times
He's
where
the
you're
oldest.
looking at the old people and you're like,
he's the oldest
I
here,
get
by
it.
the way. I think.
Actually, John's the oldest.
get
Is he really? Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. He may not
I'm the
act
youngest
it.
here by
Are you
by a
wearing
good
a
margin.
tux? Yeah, it's after 5.
What am I, farmer? Please let us know what old people things you do in the comments to the left of Mark.
Hello.
Because the comments are kind of like our age, always ticking away. Never think about the future, always think about the past. You'll be happy. None of this makes any sense. We'll see you next week. Cheers.
Cheers.